Welcome to the Breadwinners. We're back for season 5 and taking your questions about work, life, and everything in between. I'm Jennifer Owens. I served as editorial director of Working Mother Media and founded the Working Mother Research Institute.
And I'm Rachael Ellison. I'm an executive coach and management consultant who works with companies big and small to design workplace policies that work for all employees. There's nothing we like more than talking about work-life strategies, but we know that in the real world, such questions can be very personal and a little prickly. In this season of The Breadwinners, we tackle them all.
Rachael, hello.
Oh, hello. Jennifer, how's it going?
It's going fine. It's, stressful times. How about yourself?
Yep. Feeling that.
Yep. That's just it. I think everyone listening just knows what that all is. That yep.
Exactly.
Well, so today's question has got me riled up in the best of ways. And I'm just wondering if you have a riability factor that you're working with today?
I will dig for it.
Okay.
The riability.
We're going to do some stretches, some lunges, and we are going to get riled up. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
We have this wonderful question from one of our awesome breadwinners. Here we go. I recently listened to a woman speaking about the lack of executive promotion for her gender. She said men she talked to said one problem they had with women was that women would cry if men brought anything critical up. This was described as a hard to solve problem by the woman speaking. This made me angry for several reasons. What are your thoughts about a statement like this? I would love to hear you guys unpack this. Oh
Sure.
my God.
So basically, this writer heard, our listener heard someone speaking about how the disadvantages that she felt in the workforce as a member of her gender, and that what she'd heard from men was that anytime something critical was said to someone of her gender, that there were tears. Is that basically what we're...
Yeah. Yep. Like, you can't say critical things to women because they cry. And thus, the other half of that is we can't promote them. Yeah.
What?
And thus, they cannot be promoted.
Right.
This is akin to we couldn't have Hillary Clinton in the presidency because, what if she was on her cycle and she was all hormonal? Do you remember that whole goofy thing? It's like from people who had never heard of menopause, but okay.
Right. All right. I mean, what's so interesting to me, like, there's so many different ways we can come at this, right? So one is like, holy good God. Like, really? Like, oh, they cry? Like, what year is this? What is happening?
I mean, did you immediately think of Mike Pence? Remember he could never be in a room with a woman alone? Remember that whole weird thing?
I don't know. He was too weird for me.
You weren't listening? I'll let you know. That's one of the things he said.
Got it. I think that there's an article that was in the Harvard Business Review in January, and it was talking about super bias. I have to come up with what it was talking about. It was kind of like basically making generalizations about people based on their gender, based on their race, based on attributing certain characteristics, individual characteristics to all of the people who belong to a certain category, and just talking about how it's a great article. We'll share it. We'll put a link in the notes. But it's really about, I think we have to do a better job at recognizing, there are going to be individuals who cry and in response to things, and there are going to be individuals who don't. And the gender is, I think there may be some patterns that suggest that, folks of certain genders or certain race, like that there might be some consistency there.
Right.
That
boys have been told never to cry. There's no crying in baseball, all that sort of crap. Right. So thus you become adults and you've got more guys trying not to cry and women feeling a little freer to cry, I guess. Yeah.
Right. And I think I've heard, specifically the article talks about diversity, inclusion, and belonging in the new world of work. And, that there are certain patterns of behavior that are more accepted for white women, like white,
Oh, right.
we are we're analyzing everyone's individual choices and trying to attribute them to a greater system, when what we really need to be doing is acknowledging that we are bringing different parts of ourselves into the workplace, and we're all making those individual choices about how to do that reflect us in particular, and they don't speak to every aspect of our social identity. We need to be more accepting of one another and what we're bringing to the table.
Right. Well, and then there's the idea of coming at it from, this makes me also think about all that chatter during the height of the Me Too movement when it first exploded onto the scene of and of course, a lot of this continues to this day, but there was all this chatter that men were afraid to mentor women because they'd be accused of sexual harassment. They were making themselves targets for this.
Right.
So I kind of feel this is like same side, same coin of women be scary, so, though I have to note here that my partner, my spouse, Brett, says, the best way not to be accused of sexual harassment? Don't harass women. But you know what? These men saying, it's not me. It's, that it's perception and that, I'll be perceived as that. So I think this men saying, but this is a variation on a theme because this is carrying it to, we would promote women, but they cry if we bring up, they're not tough enough. I mean, that's what the crying is? Like they can't handle tough feedback. I mean, oh my Lord, be a woman in today or the entire history of being women and being tough enough to show up and try to support your family and not get harassed at work and try to navigate all the fun that comes with working with men and all that sort of jazz. But yeah, we're not tough enough.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, what decade is this from?
Yeah.
They said it recently. Was this 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I've worked in
Let's assume it's recent because I think this stuff still is very, very spot on.
No,
still.
I hear that. And I understand. And
I mean, I'm riled up, Raquel.
I know you are. I know you are, as you should be. I think I think what might be, I always kind of look for the why. And I think that right now, because I do feel that, yes, it's a consistent feeling that's been going on for a while. I also think it's a bit of a regression, right? I think that we've moved past this in a lot of spaces. There has been a move past this. And what I think might be happening a little bit is a regression because we have broken so many boundaries and norms about what work looks like that it's can we just go back to the time where these women were crying and we couldn't promote them
and we didn't promote them. Yeah.
But because, I think I've been doing a lot of thinking about it. We had that episode last season where we talked about Rosie the Riveter and we talked about what happened after World War II and just this kind of reverse, all of a sudden there were ads about easy bake ovens and all of the things that women should be doing. Right. And I do think that we've gone through, similar to World War II, where we had this, this real shift to some of the structures of how work works for different people of different backgrounds and genders. And we sort of reverted backwards. And I think we have just gone through a similar shift in how everything works. And I think that there is a, even subconscious push from some folks to be like, let's just go back to like the Mad Men days when like people, like the women were just too emotional and like I'm worried about them getting their periods during a big meeting with the client. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is this just a theory, but does that hold water with you? Because it really, like, I have been on the phone talking about parental leave, like expanding parental leave with like a Texas oil executive who was like, I wasn't even there for the delivery of my child. And now I'm supposed to approve like extended times, right? And that was like 2016. So like, I think that we have moved forward. I think we're in danger of regressing in a way that kind of lends itself to this whole super bias idea. Let's just kind of make these attributions to these big groups of people so that like we can keep everything the way that we were comfortable with it before.
Yeah. Because I don't discount, because I'm taking this woman who our writer is hearing, and I don't know, is it a one-on-one conversation or an event or whatever? But in any case,
an event, but I made that up.
Yeah, you're right. But it could also be, I don't know. But we should be mad. We should be mad that this is still a thing. And I think also we need to admit that it's still a thing. You know, like you just can't believe it, and you put it aside because you're like, well, this can't be true. But I mean, have you ever been told you're too emotional at work?
Sure. No,
Have you?
sure.
Yeah, because I have too. I have, terribly stressful time cutting, being told to cut staff yet again and cut budget. And it was awful. And basically was in no uncertain terms told that some people are emotional, some people are not. And then looking at me, it was just a one-on-one. Like, obviously, I believe you're telling me that I'm too emotional.
Right.
Yeah, it's called frustration. It's like, and you guys were killing the company, and the company's essentially dead. So I was right, but yeah, I don't know. I guess probably wasn't the right way to express myself, being aggravated and frustrated. But I'm no longer at that company either.
we are in a crisis, like a burnout crisis.
Yeah.
Like take out gender, take out any like social identity group. Like you look across the board and burnout is really high. And they're actually, I mean, just these reactions, I think the attribution of the reactions to this is a woman thing, like it just kind of does my head in. We just got through a freaking pandemic. Like it's like, we're all just trying, like we've suffered these tremendous losses. We're trying to like get, find our footing in the world. So, I mean, I get it. I'm waxing philosophical about it. And then there's just the reality that there are dudes who just think that women cry too much at work. And that's true too. And, I think.
And Dollars to Donuts, I bet you that guy is thinking of white women, because I bet you he has a whole other super bias about Black women.
Yeah.
Or Hispanic women or whatever, or Asian women, whatever, I bet you there's another overlay to that, these men's super bias. And I'm going to say I have a super bias. They suck.
Well, right.
These men suck.
So 538 did some research. And I was talking about this a few weeks ago. But what's interesting is like just the stats that come up when you look at, again, the new world of work, how on the one hand, we don't want to say that everybody who, all white women cry at work, right?
Right.
So it's not like we're trying to make these big wide distributions. But when there's been research done on white men and women and Black men and women, and they found that almost half of Black men feel more included when remote. Just what's interesting is like, I don't know. There's different pieces. I feel like I'm all over the map, but I feel like we are going through this time where like we're exploring where we feel comfortable and what the dynamics look like. And I think that we can't make a ton of generalizations on the one hand, except to say that like we're all going through something right now and we're all trying to figure out where we feel the most comfortable and where we can express ourselves in a way that doesn't feel threatening.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and then what is even your response when you're hearing this? Like, depending on the situation, like if it's a panel, I don't know what else, you can raise your hand and whatever. But to this woman, she's essentially just reporting her findings, right? That she claims that she's gone into the wild here and talked to male executives, and their take is, I mean, oh my God, basically they can't promote most women because they cry.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many ERG groups for women do we have to combat this? Because those ERG groups tend to be the top women, female executive of the company is the executive sponsor. And then it's all the women. And then they put on events for Women's History Month and they do like coaching and they'll offer these things. But it doesn't seem to change the mindset of the men because they're still worried we might tear up. And by the way, also, I'm assuming that that's a bad thing that women tear up. Say all women are crying. And so we're assuming that having any sort of emotion is a bad thing. Maybe you ought to learn how to deliver your critical comments in a better way, dude. Oh, I'm riled up, man.
I'm also kind of like, as we're talking about it, like I'm curious about which men, right? Like, I don't know, they're talking about all women. There were some men who in senior level positions who said that, women were too emotional. I just wonder if maybe there's just something really generational about this. Maybe.
Yeah, I hope so.
And the kids are going to be all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, This is something, these are some, like when I'm talking about a resistance to change, it's not coming from people who aren't deeply entrenched in the workplace culture already, right?
Yeah.
People who resist change are the people who've been around for a while. So, I wonder, as we look at the changing demographics generationally, are we going to see a shift? Because some of the people that I'm working with, I feel like I see different conversations happening in Gen Z, Gen Y. What are
we always have to have the next generation save us because we never got it done.
Exactly.
But I do think this is part and parcel of the like why women don't get male mentors. And certainly we should be supporting each other, and that's another conversation. If you make it up, you got to put the ladder down and put a hand down and help more women come up. You can't shut the door behind you. All those cliches. But these things of like women not getting male mentors because they're afraid of being seen as, and this is part of that. Like, I'm afraid that you'll cry. And then, cause there's that unspoken thing that you'll cry in my office and then people think I did something awful to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then to realize like during Me Too that it's way more awful than you realized at the workplace. That was the thing for myself personally was that, working on all this stuff about women's advancement, only to realize that women's safety, we hadn't solved for that yet,
Yeah.
We had to take up like a big giant leap backwards and make sure that forced arbitration and non-disclosure agreements weren't just serving to hide how bad it is.
Right.
Yeah. So, we may be emotional at work. Also, but I go back to, I don't know that that's a bad thing. I mean, be professional, but sometimes things really suck. And why can't we call it out that it sucks? And, if I have to tear up, I'm not a big crier, but I have cried at work twice, and both out of deep frustration. It wasn't the time that the guy was making me lay off people during performance reviews. That was super fun. But another time where it just was so terrible. The work that we were being asked to do and the lack of leadership, like it was just awful, and trying to keep everything in the air because we're freaking women and we get the job done. that it finally got to be too much. And yeah, I did. And I was pretty mad about it because it was like my fourth job. Like I couldn't believe I had gotten this far in and now I was going to cry.
Yeah.
Which, mind you, just a little bit of tear, like wipe away and stuff. Wasn't even like a big collapse or anything. And so what?
Right.
So what? I was right. That situation sucked. But all of which to say, I think there's room for authenticity in ourselves. And sometimes we're terribly frustrated. But then I don't know. What do you buy is it causality? I don't know that this expert of whatever is saying this is why this is a factor in women not being promoted.
Do I buy that the crying, that
Is it? Yeah, that's a factor to call out.
But I think that like any behavior that doesn't feel comfortable, relatable, familiar to the kind of dominating, like the folks with the most power in the situation,
Yeah.
is going to result in prejudice towards other people, not, it's going to be this fundamental attribution and like that, that everybody acts that way. But I think I'm thinking specifically of this woman who I've been working with, Tasha, who's either a Gen Z or Gen whatever. And
showing my bias as I roll my eyes and go, whatever.
No, but I mean, we were talking about this, and it's like there's so many incorrect attributions. Like the workplace has been kind of a mess for a long time in terms of like how we see one another and like what we're willing to accept and not accept. And, what we're going to kind of keep at arm's length just so that we don't have to feel too uncomfortable about it.
Right.
And I think that women do not get promotions because a behavior which some men may attribute to the whole gender, makes them uncomfortable. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think that it's definitely, it's a challenge, and we need to be thinking about how to kind of ride the wave of change that started, whether we liked it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to, I'm trying to do that. And to be honest, some of the places where it's least likely to stick. But I think that we do need to just keep having the discussion about what it means to bring ourselves authentically to work and what it means to make assumptions about other people at work. And
and acknowledge that this may be actually real, or this woman thinks it's real, and a bunch of guys that she talked to think it's real, that it's so awful. This is grotesque. I mean, police. You've never seen a boy cry? It's only girls cry, all this. But this woman's basically gone out into the land and brought back this message to us. And I believe we ignore it at our own peril. Even despite the fact that we're like, this message is stupid, we have to acknowledge it because this is the stuff they were talking about in the 80s and we're still talking about it. It's dumb, but whatever field this woman is in, it's still there. I take this woman at her word of what she's telling us, and we should be angry and whatnot, but we should be aware that this kind of stuff, they used to, when I first got to Working Mother, we were doing a lot of articles about how to get in the room, which is still a thing, where, promotions are discussed or stretch assignments or like how to get yourself in the room. And basically this woman got herself somehow in the room. And, I would like to picture them a bunch of old guys at the club talking over cigars or something, but you just know it's a bunch of Gen Z guys still talking this way.
No, that's true. No, it's totally possible. I mean, I think there is, whether or not they're entrenched in old ideas of the workplace or not, there's definitely this idea of dispositional bias, right? That came up in that article where it's like, if my tendency is not to be emotional in the workplace, whether or not I'm Gen Z, Gen Y, or Gen
F,
like I'm uncomfortable with you having a different disposition than me, basically.
Right. And really quite the opposite for me. Like if you're not kind of passionate and talking it out, I have a problem with you. I have to get over it, but I've gotten along enough to acknowledge that not everyone is at my decibel, my vibe level. And so it's like, and that makes for great conversations and great input, like all the good stuff about diversity of thought and the like. But I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm operating up here and you're a little lower and calmer and whatnot. And that's okay. Like let me dial down a little bit while we're talking and the like. But it is good to know about this stuff. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see is, who still has the power at work. It's still men. They still hold the purse strings. And so if they don't want any crying at work, they're going to say it like that.
Totally.
It's just
Very
the worst,
true.
though. We're allowed to say it's the worst.
I wish we could,
Yeah, what's our wrap up for this?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm out. I'll leave that to you, Raquel. Thanks.
I think it's a couple things. I think we should say, to your point, right? No matter why this is happening, no matter what the motivation is or the social psychological explanation is, resistance to change, what have you.
Or how wrong it is.
Wrong. No. But I think let's just acknowledge the wrong first, right? It is 100% wrong. And
I was afraid you weren't going to say it was wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but let's just, let's name it. I think that it is one example of a super bias that we see, right? Like where we see one individual's behavior once and then assume that they're always emotional.
Oh, they're representing, right.
And then because they're a woman, all women are whatever, right? So we're making, whoever's making, whatever guy this is, whatever generation, he's from whatever, background, he's making some huge leaps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a systemic problem. Like we all kind of collectively have to take a step back and say, hey, this is not about, whether one individual reacts a certain way. Like we have to be more conscious of how we're bringing ourselves to work, how we're perceiving others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we're at a time when like the world's turned upside down and back over like 8 times.
Yeah.
Everything is in flux. Everyone is feeling a certain degree of emotional stress. And a lot of people would really prefer that things went back to the way that feels more comfortable to them.
Yeah.
So this increased visibility, transparency into like who we are and what we're feeling, which I think did come out of the pandemic. Some people are going to want that to go away. And the first way to do it is to be like, oh, all people who fit this category are going to make me uncomfortable because I don't behave that way.
So let me keep them out of the room.
Yeah. What we learned is that everybody, everybody's behaving a different way. So I don't know, man.
We just got to get ourselves promoted and then just don't hire the guys that don't cry.
There you go. I love it.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Breadwinners. Do you have a sticky work-life question for us? Send it our way at thebreadwinnerspod@gmail.com. We're here to help.
And please take a moment to rate and review our show. It really helps. And of course, join us on Facebook or Instagram at The Breadwinners Podcast. And until next time, keep hustling.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.